Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, October 8th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. It's Thursday, and that can mean only one thing. Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting from 24/7 Sports, has dropped by. Steve, thanks for dropping by today, brother.
Good morning, Daniel. Bringing some added energy coming off the Cubs win yesterday. One run was enough for Arrieta. That first inning run for the Cubbies, and Arrieta cruised. I think Kyle Schwarber's home run is still in the air somewhere, and it was just a fun night of baseball. And the poor water cooler loses another fight. It's winless in its career.
If the Cubs are winning, I really don't know what to say. It doesn't happen very often. It leads me to believe that something bad's going to happen to the Cubs in the next couple of weeks. But I digress. Steve became a very interesting and controversial and popular figure with several fan bases in the last 24 hours because he has updated 3 crystal ball picks, all of which affect your Ohio State Buckeyes, and we're going to go through them one by one. In yesterday's boarding house, we reported that Ohio State really wants defensive back Damar Hamlin out of the Pittsburgh area. Up until today, Steve, every time we've spoken to you before this, you've kind of leaned Buckeyes. It sounds like things have changed, and you've made a change with your crystal ball. Bring us up to speed on where you are with Damar Hamlin.
Well, I really dug into Damar Hamlin over the last couple of weeks, and I've been leaning towards switching the Pitt for a little while, but I just feel like Damar wants to go, or I felt like Damar always wanted to go to Ohio State. Talked to some Buckeyes commits that were confident about Damar Hamlin earlier in the process. Not as confident now. They say that Damar is keeping things close to the vest. Talked to Pitt sources. I think Pitt's pretty confident about where they stand with the local standout who lives 15 minutes away from the facility, and talking to some more Ohio State sources. I think that they think they're in it, but they very much are concerned about Pitt here. So made me switch my crystal ball to Pitt. I didn't want to still be on Ohio State. I like to have my crystal ball where I think where the recruitment is trending, and I think Pitt has the edge for Damar Hamlin going into the official visit. With that being said, I still think that anything can happen. I definitely don't think he's a lock to Pitt. I think that these official visits mean something for him and his family. He's going to go see Notre Dame in a couple weeks. Penn State's a school that his parents were definitely high on at one point, probably still are. And Damar likes Penn State too. We'll get back to Ohio State, and that was a place that Damar obviously really liked a lot. And then, Pitt, Pat Narduzzi's personally recruiting Damar Hamlin. He's very important to their class, and as we've talked about in the past, and then your readers have talked about it on Bucknuts on the front row, so it's no secret that Pat Narduzzi's had some success at that position with some guys recently going in the first round out of Michigan State, and he's certainly using that with Damar and amongst other things, and so Pitt's in a good spot for Damar Hamlin.
Another guy we've talked about at length here, Jordan Fuller, the standout athlete from New Jersey. You have been particularly high on him ever since seeing him in camp. There was some real hope that he was going to be a Buckeye, and now not as hopeful given your crystal ball maneuvering. Bring us up to speed.
Jordan Fuller, the top 100 athlete from New Jersey, number 2 player in the state according to 24/7 Sports. I think he's a 5-star talent, as I've said many times. He could still very well end up at Ohio State. I just felt more confident about it in the summer than I do now. I have no idea what he's going to do now. I don't think he knows what he's going to do. I do think Ohio State had the edge when I crystal balled it, talking to him and his family in Oakland. What they were saying about Ohio State made me think that the Buckeyes had the edge. So he very much still very high on Ohio State, what they've been able to accomplish on the field, how they've been able to develop players, how strong the strength and conditioning program is. Those things have not changed about the Buckeyes. I think for Jordan Fuller, he's been on the camp circuit a little bit, and he's realized how important it is to him that he gels with the guys in the locker room, and that is going to make the experience a great experience or a not so great experience on the next level. And with that being said, I can't crystal ball a school because he has to go on as officials and find out where he really fits in. And so these upcoming official visits, and we've talked about it before on the Bucknuts Morning 5, and I've written it, it's going to come down to getting him with a host that he really enjoys being around and getting him around guys that he's going to enjoy hanging out with on the next level, because I think that that's really important to him. He's a smart kid. He'd be going to any of these schools anyway if football wasn't in the picture. So he's going to be a young man that's going to be successful at all of these schools as a student. And then I think he's a tremendous athlete, and so he's going to be, and he's a hard worker, and he's a tough kid. So he's going to play. He's going to play at a high level at any of these schools. I think he wants to go to a place where he's going to really fit in. So that's what he's looking for. Which locker room does he fit in best? He doesn't know. I don't know. So I went foggy on the crystal ball.
Yeah, he's interesting just because the New Jersey guys will go anywhere. Rutgers has done such a poor job of locking down the state, and Penn State's dominance in the state of New Jersey isn't what it once was. I believe his dad went to TCU, and his brother plays at UCLA. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm sleeping on those two schools a little bit, but I think Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, alphabetical order there, are in a really good spot for him. And then I'd be surprised if those four didn't get officials. And then, it wasn't one of those four on signing day. I'd be surprised. But maybe I'm sleeping a little bit on UCLA and TCU and the other two that he named in his final eight.
I'm always interested in kids that are willing to go from the East Coast to the West Coast. It's always been an impressive thing for me for guys who are willing to do that. So if they do that in their family, maybe they really will be determined by where he has the best visit. Okay, the best news of the Crystal Ball Day yesterday, and news that I have to admit I agree completely on, and I'm ecstatic that you did this. The flippage, or whatever you did with it, I can't remember. You can let us know where it was before you flipped it to Ohio State, but Binjimin Victor, the tall receiver out of Coconut Creek in Florida, and I would really encourage everybody, if they haven't already, to go watch his video on 24/7 Sports. You will no longer have any concern about the receiver position going forward, especially the big one. If Steve is correct, you have flipped Ben Victor to Ohio State. Tell us all the good news.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't have a forecast in for Binjimin Victor before yesterday. I finally put one in for Ohio State. Obviously, it was trending that way with some very accomplished recruiting guys, for lack of better words. Some of my colleagues that I respect the most had already put in a crystal ball for Ohio State. But I'd like to do my own due diligence and talk to some people, and I was told 80% sure he was going to be a Buckeye. So that was enough for me to put my crystal ball in. I talked to a couple people. I know Binjimin Victor staying in touch with a few Ohio State commits, Austin Mack, one of them, and what a receiver duo that would be with those two, because Austin Mack just continues to get better and better. He's having a hellacious senior year. He's a guy that attacks the football. He's a big, thick, physical kid that can run. He's a big play waiting to happen every time he touches the football, just because he's going to be hard to get on the carpet. He's just got that ability to stay on his feet and make plays after the catch or as a kick returner. Just a dynamic guy. And I know we said this last week, but Ohio State for sure had Austin Mack as one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the country. And so we have him underranked if you ask people inside the Woody, I would think. And so with Binjimin Victor, he's got the best ball skills in the country. He can really go up and pluck it out of the air. Just a smooth, outstanding player. Couple things to watch here with Binjimin Victor. I think that there is some part of him that wants to stay in state. With Ohio State being the favorite right now, Miami would be the team to watch because they could have the biggest change. because I don't think he's going to go to Florida State or Florida at this point. So, but Miami could have a coaching change and could bring in a new guy that could be very impressive, and that could kind of be a change here. That was a topic that came up when I was talking with 24/7 Sports insider Ryan Barta, who's very plugged in to Binjimin Victor and the other prospects at Coconut Creek. And then he West Virginia being a dark horse was also talked about. So we'll see what happens there. But right now, looking really good for Ohio State. You know, Coach Zach Smith staying on top of Binjimin Victor. You know, Urban Meyer's getting time with Binjimin Victor as well. So things look good for Ohio State for one of the top players in America right now.
Where would you rank? I mean, this is going to give them a chance to bring in, you know, the top two defensive ends in the country, and Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bosa, and then the receiving duo of Austin Mack and Ben Victor. Where would that rank in terms of duos you've seen go to the same school recently, off the top of your head?
Well, it certainly would be really good. USC is bringing in an amazing receiver class this year. So many good ones out in California that they just passed. They passed on a couple of them that would have went to UCLA, or excuse me, that would have went to USC, and so that receiver class, and then they go into Georgia and take one of the best receivers out of Georgia. So USC is bringing in the nation's #1 receiver class, but Florida, even despite not getting Binjimin Victor, got a chance to sign a really talented receiver class, and so does Ohio State, obviously, and that'll be up there near the top. Especially, I mean, George Hill's committed to Ohio State right now, and although my crystal ball says Michigan State, if he sticks with the Buckeyes and plays slot receiver at Ohio State, I think he's a stud. So you have George Hill with Austin Mack and Binjimin Victor. That'd be quite a haul. That'd be 3 top 100 guys. That would certainly put you in the discussion to say, hey, we got the best receiver class in America.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate Steve joining us and bringing some sweet knowledge. I will say this. The big receiver issue could be very close to being solved here at Ohio State.